So what does it feel like to be a historic figure, Stephen? I mean, that's huge.
And if I'm prepared to die, then I mean, what? Let's see what the truth looks like.
When you stopped speaking, what was happening internally?
Did notice, of course, that I was being mistreated, but it was because I was so young, I was being taught that I was not worthy.
Who were you before the world told you you were limited? Our next guest grew up in North New Jersey, knowing from the age of 5 he had a hearing disability. At 30, he was diagnosed with Usher syndrome and began losing his sight. He went on to become recognized as the world's first black deaf journalist. Today, he leads Spoken Heroes, bridging the gap between able-bodied and disabled communities through advocacy and workforce training. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Stephen McCoy. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here with you, Dave.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Stephen. You've had quite the journey, man. You've been through a hell of a people after you, Stephen. I can hear the sirens. What's going on?
Yes, I live in a city, so I apologize about that. Yeah,
From the age of 5, you said that you knew you had a disability, a hearing disability.
yeah,
What was that like? Like from the age of 5, working that out.
yeah. Yeah. When I was diagnosed with hearing loss, it was extremely difficult. As a child, I was a very timid individual as a child, and I think my hearing disability definitely played a huge role in that because I was always concerned. You know, when you are unsure of what people are saying, it sometimes it becomes a very uncertain situation. So it was difficult for me as I was bullied, not only by peers, but also by some of my teachers and older individuals, particularly male in the urban environment that I grew up in, who were adults. But, you know, as I got older, I started to just understand a lot more of how they thought that by making me tough and abusing me, they thought that that was going to help me. You know, they felt that I wouldn't be able to survive in the world that I actually come through. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. But I'm glad that if it's one thing that people have always tried to do is for me to change my voice in any way. You can tell me, you know, to walk this way, wear this shirt or whatever it is. But one thing it was really hard for me to budge, was when it came to my voice. And I knew that's my power. And, I never allowed it to go, despite the fact that I did, develop selective mutism. I was a muted kid due to the trauma of being bullied. And, you know, was just always afraid to speak, but that came all out on paper. So my mother gave me a composition notebook, and I started to write all of my thoughts, and it was just such a sacred and very precious time to me to be able to just write whenever I wanted. There was no time limit there. You know, I could write as much as I like. So that sparked the love for journalism for me.
Wow. Let's just dwell and dig on that for a little bit. So, what year are we talking that you were bullied in school by the teachers? Is that
Oh.
90s, 2000s?
Yeah, this was the 90s. Yeah, the 90s. Yeah.
So, think,
I was in second grade. Yeah.
and did you realize at the time that you were being treated differently to the other children? I mean, second grade, you'd have been, oh, I'm trying to work out, 6, 7 ish.
Yeah. Yes. That's, yeah. To answer your question, I did notice, of course, that I was being mistreated, but it was because I was so young, I was being taught that I was not worthy, I was not favored. So it made me hate myself because I was believing in the actions of other people. I was a kid, and honestly, as I'm sitting here and speaking about it, I'm reflecting more. This even started even in kindergarten, not with the teachers per se, but first grade with the teachers and the staff. My mother actually had to come up to the school to be able to confront the staff about reporting the teacher than just trying to get that to stop. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, I remember the 90s, and I was a kid myself in the 90s, and I remember, and I grew up in the UK, so it was quite different, but it was a different world back then. There was less visibility for people to see what was going on to you in schools, and there was a lot of bullying going on around that time. So I could not imagine what you possibly went through, especially by teachers as well. I don't think I ever saw that. So for you to do that and come out of it, man, that's amazing.
Thank you. And I would say it wasn't all of my teachers, but one is even enough. But it was more than three. Yeah. But I, I just always saw the students who were they had bad behavior, they were being rewarded for that. So spiritually inside me, I was just wondering, like, I am a good person, but how do I have to conform to others misbehaving in order to be rewarded, in order to be treated kind, and I'm just glad that I never really lost sense of that part. Despite the fact that I grew up um, hating myself. So the mistreatment didn't come from me treating other people bad, but I do realize that I was not taking care of myself and loving on myself. But once I was able to start doing that, I mean, yeah, the world really changed for me, I would say.
And the mutism. So that obviously, for anyone who doesn't know what mutism is, that's where you didn't speak for a period of time. You just went silent. When you stopped speaking, what was happening internally? What was going on with you to not be able to communicate anymore or not want to?
I actually remember these days as if it was yesterday. I mean, because one thing about myself, I have a huge imagination to this day. And my imagination really saved me. It allowed me to escape. The only negative part of it is that because I did not speak, I ended up having to repeat the same grade. If you're not speaking, the teachers aren't really aware of what you're actually consuming. And when you're being called on, yeah, I would say I was too afraid. I just remember just being super nervous. And it's interesting because today we all speak about something called anxiety. And that was something that was not spoken of. I didn't know what that was, but all I knew is that I, for sure, in looking back, I always operated with my nervous system. So I was
Mhm.
always nervous. My stomach was always, very shaky. And the only thing that allowed me to escape was my imagination and being able to convey what I envisioned in my head on paper. So I actually felt the safest when I was able to do that. It's just when teachers would call on me and I have to actually speak, that's when the whole class would start to laugh at me. Um, Sometimes they will pull out my hearing aids and those types of things. So that wasn't so cool. But, now just being older, knowing what I know now, being more wise, it's just at that time it was not normalized. And I still think that there's so much work to do in being able to normalize diversity. You know, some people wear glasses, some people wear hearing aids, some people walk, and some people are in wheelchairs. But guess what? We are people, you know, which is the reason why I use um person first language. Like I always I don't say disabled person. I rather just say a person with a disability because we are all people first. So, um, but you know, I'm not one of those people that beat people up and for whatever language it is that, you know, I know everyone truly do mean well, but it's so important that we really do be careful with the things that are coming out of our mouths because we're taking in from each other. We're teaching each other. You know, each one teach one. So
Yeah, and I believe one of the things you do, you ask people, who were you before society told you who to be? Is that right? Is
yeah,
that one of yeah. So let me turn that question on yourself. Who are you before the world told you you were limited?
I would like to just call myself a big softy. I mean, in some ways, I still consider myself a very corny type of person. I mean, it's just I am a person that loves people. I love people. I love community. I love nature. I always have, and I always felt that I had to withhold my love. I felt like I couldn't be too kind to people because other in the neighborhood were teaching me that I have to be very macho and tough and, you know, making sure that no one takes advantage of you. And with knowing that, absolutely, it may be necessary, but I think you could pull those tools out when the time is needed. But I always like to lead with love. That's at the center of who I am. I do believe that vulnerability, being able to express yourself, that's the biggest bravery there is, I would say, in just being yourself. And if other people do not resonate with that, that's okay. I I never really look to others to relate to. I always look to others to be inspired to. Like I want to learn. I want to soak up the knowledge. Obviously, that's what a lot of us as journalists like to do. We like to soak up the knowledge. I'm a student of life, so I'm always and I'm extremely, I would say, I'm just a down to earth person, and I don't feel that I'm above anything or anything like that. You know, I know many, you know, people, many whom we all know as high profile individuals to just people that in the inner city community that maybe not enough people know their names. But I like to bridge that gap, and that's even within my mission of what I'm doing today, just bridging the gap between the able-bodied and disability communities.
This week's episode is sponsored by Cine by Kyle. Retro film teas, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future. Basically, if your personality peaks somewhere around VHS, you're going to love this. Use code SAVEDB and it gets you 20% off. But use it wisely. Here's a quick video to show you what it's all about. And you were doing a lot of unpaid internship for years, and then you came to Disney. What did it feel like to walk in a room where people saw your capability rather than your disability? Was it totally different for you?
It was. It really was. Big up to the Walt Disney Company. I mean, it really offered me a worldly experience, being able to meet people from the UK and all over the world. It was the first time that I was able to move out of New Jersey and being able to have conversations with people that didn't care what I had in my ear. It's like because my biggest insecurity at the time was people would stare in my ears rather than look me in the eye, which is the way that I know to communicate. Which, by the way, sometimes that really I always have to lead with the handshake because if I'm looking at someone in the eye and they have their hand out, they'll walk away and think I'm just a big-headed individual, not realizing that I didn't see their hand. So, yeah, but it was a beautiful experience, just being able to just have those conversations and connect. That's truly when I started to come into my own and really own and own my thoughts, and it don't be so consumed by what others think, whether it is my family members, my friends back at home. I really owned who I was, and when I came back to Jersey and was promoted to working for Radio Disney host, it really again just allowed me to be able to still continue whatever that mission is. I didn't know exactly what was happening. I just knew I felt it in my heart that I was doing what I was called to do, and I enjoyed it. So I enjoy connecting with people. I'm starting with the Walt Disney Company.
Well, you did story time with Stephen when you were at Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Was it at that point that you realized that your voice would become your platform moving forward?
Not necessarily, because actually the story time with Steven happened when I moved back to Jersey and worked at the Disney store. So
Right.
I was sitting there with the kids, and people, the parents, they loved it. We actually scheduled story time with Steven, and it was just something that I enjoyed doing in the store. I always known that I wanted to use my voice, but I didn't know that would be a part of the process that was going to lead me to other other things such as the promotion with the radio Disney and Disney theatrical. So
And then, so you reach the age of 30, you're building a career for yourself, and then all of a sudden you get diagnosed with Usher syndrome. What goes through your head when you've already dealt with so much and you've suddenly been dealt another hand of progressive vision loss? That must have been horrendous for you.
yeah, it was a very astonishing experience. Um, when the eye specialist informed me that, and my mother, she was right with me, and we just were kind of shocked. We had no idea that my hearing disability was connected to an eye disease. Because my vision didn't start to decrease from what I had known until probably around 2018-ish, going into 2014. That's when things started happening where I noticed I'm always hurting myself. And being at events, hosting red carpet, and we having to leave late and going down the stairs, and it was just so much thought that was put into. I couldn't connect the dots. Like, what is going on? I'm becoming extremely clumsy when I'm around people that I'm familiar with. Of course, I'm holding on to my friends or my colleagues. It not unknowingly, we're just at an event, and I'm just my body responds in a way of like, help me, guide me. Um, yeah, it just fast forwarded to the day where I was diagnosed, and they just said, "Yeah, you're gonna go blind." I don't think in the way that she said it, it was the most um, best way to say it, but it didn't give me any hope. I was just more shocked. I was very shocked and didn't know exactly what to do. Everyone just started to come around and they would say, Stephen, wow, you are just really strong. You're so strong. And I was hearing that. didn't really have much emotion until things started to become more challenging for me. And that's when the emotions absolutely started to think through the doors.
Yeah, and then during that period, you openly admitted that you attempted suicide. What stopped you? What shifted at that moment and changed your thought pattern to not do that?
Well, I wasn't successful. And in the midst of, you know, it was very heavy for me. Um, I did say to myself that, I'm just gonna give it one more shot. If it's one thing I never did, because I've hidden my disability for many years, almost my whole life, for as much as I could. Like everyone did not know about my disability. When it came out, a lot of people from Disney and all of the companies that I've worked with and networks, they messaged me and said, I had no idea that's what you were going through. But I thought to myself, if it's one thing I haven't did was to be honest with who I am. And if I'm prepared to die, then I mean, what let's see what the truth looks like. If I'm prepared to die and I'm going to absolutely kill myself, then I'ma just see what happens, and I don't know what I was prepared for. I think I was prepared for, yeah, what did end up happening, a lot of people started to go their own ways. I noticed that people didn't really know how to communicate with me anymore. And but I was pushing through. Absolutely was pushing through. I connected with organizations like support groups to be able to help me carry through this time. And that really helped me to keep going. And through me being able to be more vocal about it, next thing you know, I went on a platform, I spoke about it, it went viral. I was invited to Washington, D.C., where I accepted the U.S. Challenge Point for the milestone of making history as the world's first Black deafblind journalist. And thank you. But I never knew that. I always wanted to make a mark in the way, whether that was to become the Red Ranger or what, a Power Ranger or something. I always wanted to make a cool mark in the world, but I never thought it would be anything like that. All of the things that I should have been, that I was running from, I always say I should have been running to that, which was me. I should have been running to the truth, um, rather than trying to live a life of being able to just be someone else. You can't. It's never gonna work that way. It's never gonna work. So
It must have been so freeing for you at whatever point that was, and so courageous of you to start admitting it and to start turning it from being, as you say, your weakness to your superpower, and then possibly seeing the world. And look, I don't believe that the world in 1990 would have accepted that and would have let it be as successful as it has done. But the world in which we've got these days is better and more willing to accept and aid and help and develop. And it must have been amazing when that kind of weight was taken off your shoulders as to telling everyone one thing but feeling something else.
it was. It was. I will say it was extremely scary. I mean, this was a part of me connected to my very own voice, because this is the voice that, again, I was a muted kid. So being able to, some of those traumas did go through my adult life as well. In some ways, it would show up. But with being so fearful, it definitely gave me courage, and others being able to just come to me for a different advice. And I realized that, yeah, I have the platform, and I want to be able to pay it forward. I saw a lot of different injustices that was happening here in the United States, and um, I built so many relationships as a journalist. So it only made sense to be able to really bridge those worlds together because essentially it is the world overall. So being able to come from New Jersey to being able to use my voice in places like Amsterdam and various places that I've traveled. It feels really great, but there's still so much work to do, and I'm still a person that lived a life as with my lived experience. So it's very surreal, but we are moving forward. We are knocking down the doors. And it's a beautiful thing, but there's a lot of work. And I always try to catch myself because I never want to, of course, it's a dream come true in some ways, but because this is really real life, I want to make sure that we do recognize that there are so many still things that we need to be able to heal, and so many things that we need to be able to fit with the things that are happening in the world.
So, what does it feel like to be a historic figure, Stephen? I mean, that's huge.
It feels great. Honestly, grew up in a house where we could not have snacks unless we memorized like Martin Luther King Jr. speeches and things like that. My family, they were very serious about myself, my cousin, my little brother, us knowing history. And so I, it's very interesting. And to even be able to have opportunities to interview some of these historic figures such as Whoopi Goldberg or I've had the pleasure of being able to talk about those moments when I was in school and I would walk past the Black History Month bulletin board and being able to see those figures on there and I just used to just stare at them and I stand on all of those amazing people's shoulders, and I want to be able to, for sure, just pay it forward. And it feels good. It feels absolutely great, and I just want to pay it forward. That's all I could do.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love to think that there's someone in school right now during that month who's walking past and seeing your photo and being inspired through whatever demons they're going through at the time that says, I can do this. So you should be very, very proud. You're such a courageous person.
Thank you. Thank you. This was last year, Black History Month, the Leaguer School in New Jersey. They invited me to come speak to the kids, and they had all of my photos on the bulletin board, and it just reminded me of when I was young, and even just this past summer, my photo that they took of me while I was in Amsterdam, they had it on on the billboard in New York City. I'm even can't even believe to say it, but yeah,
Wow.
it was real, and they put it on the billboard on Usher Syndrome Awareness Day, which was uh, September 20th. So yeah, so it's really interesting, and a lot of times, so we were all taking pictures in the middle of Times Square with the billboard. And people would stop and they're taking and they like is that you? Some people were speaking in different languages and this was their first time ever being in New York, so to have me be a part of their first time experience was just that was pretty cool. That's one of my highlights that I really enjoyed throughout my career.
I love it. I love it. Stephen, what would you do if you went back to see yourself, that 5, 6, 7 year old? What would you say to yourself, do you think, if you had the opportunity now?
Would hold on to him and give him many kisses all over his face and say that I love you and you are loved, you are worthy, and it's gonna be okay, and, and you're beautiful. That's what I would
Wow.
say. All of those things. Yeah. So it would be
That's
more just, just emotion more than anything. Yeah.
Love it. So let's talk about Spoken Heroes. Now, Spoken Heroes focuses on self advocacy and workforce readiness. Do you want to tell us a bit about how that came about and how you developed that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Spoken Heroes. Actually, a few years before even um establishing Spoken Heroes, I made sure that I worked with different nonprofit organizations just to be able to familiarize myself with the business of nonprofit. But also, I know when creating it, I didn't want to emulate or duplicate any of the organizations that I worked with, which some would be specifically blind, some would be specifically deaf blind or deaf, or and I'm such a person that is for inclusivity all the way around. So I wanted it to be a place of celebrating all disabilities. So Broken Heroes is our mission is to bridge the gap between the able-bodied and disability communities, and we do that through our program that specializes in self-advocacy, where they're learning to stand up for themselves, learning to learn of their own disabilities, knowing how to communicate those things as well, going into workforce readiness. So once they learn those things and know how to advocate for themselves and know about the ADA, they're able to really know their rights. So when they're applying for jobs, it's up to them whether they want to mark on the application and have a disability. But it's so many different things in a workplace, knowing how to request for accommodations and how much time that is needed to be able to respond. So many different things, communication, access technology, and we do it with the element of storytelling. That's what separates us from other organizations because we're passing around the mic in the classroom. A lot of these students, some of the students, they have mutism like I once did, but by the end of the program, it's unbelievable. We actually just got a few new testimonials as we're coming up on, we just celebrated January 12th for our second year anniversary, but we're going to be celebrating it. We're doing a big event next month. And um, it's amazing. One of the students, he said because of Spoken Hero that he was not talking at all. It's so interesting. And now he's just involved with everything. But Spoken Hero is the reason why he started to go to church. And he's speaking in the churches as well. So it's just like, wow, I know that I always wanted to bring um, a spiritual element as far as approaching the curriculums with a holistic approach rather than it being so institutionalized because I feel like that's how we lose them. These are students that's already in school. They're coming into a classroom and they're coming in with their emotion. So we have to make sure that we are um, paying attention and taking heed to those emotions and being able to get them to communicate their emotions because sometimes their parents or their family members don't even know enough about their own disabilities or may not even ask questions of are you okay, does this make you nervous or those sorts of things, being able to care for them emotionally. And that's why we actually have our parent and support group, the parent and family support group, which actually is run by our program director, and she's also my mother. So,
Love it.
like, yeah, so we want the families to be a part of this journey because a lot of our students have said it has benefited the home so well. Success starts there and being able to get that support from the home. So when you come over to Smoking Heroes, you're more confident. When you have your first time job interview, you're comfortable because you know that you have that support. Even if you don't get it, they're just excited now that they have basically a team of people that understand them and will support them. So it's been beautiful. It's been I can't even believe the people that we really touch, the family, it's really beautiful. And this is my way of being able to, for sure, pay it forward, but it makes little Steven feel very much included.
So you've got the event coming up next month. Is there anything else we can look forward to in the future, Stephen?
Yes, I have my fingers crossed. I'm speaking to a few people out there in the UK, so I'm hoping to be out there. Absolutely, and I definitely have to pay you a visit. And
I'm in New Zealand, Stephen. I was born in
oh,
the UK, but I'm in New Zealand. You got to come the other way
oh,
now.
I would love that too. But yeah, so I teamed up with the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities for the More Than Work campaign, which we're promoting just inclusive work roles such as the DSP, getting people to apply for those positions, which is the direct support providers. And what they do essentially is being able to just lend a helping hand to those with disabilities. And, it's just another form of way to be able to create inclusive work. So I'm not only trying to provide opportunities for those with disabilities, but those who don't have any sort of disability, that doesn't mean that we're not including you either. We want you to come on over, and we would love for you to be able to create a living authentically, and allow it to come from the heart. And that's a way to be able to bridge that gap as well. We do have our Wear Your Voice campaign, which we partner with the More Than a T-shirt company, being able to promote those emotions such as anxiety that we just spoke about earlier. And those proceeds goes to Spoken Heroes, which is on our website and social media. And we are promoting our Spoken Hero second annual anniversary event and just celebrating all of the heroes, the community leaders, and letting people know, what we've been up to. So there's a lot of different projects that we are working on, and we're just really grateful for the community. We're grateful for people like you who give us this platform to be able to speak about Spoken Heroes and all of these amazing things that we have going on. So thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Stephen. And what we're going to do is we're going to put right up here all of the details for Spoken Heroes. We're going to put the details for the campaigns that you've mentioned. We're going to put that on all of our socials as well, and we're going to send that out so everyone will have all of the details of what you're doing and how they can get involved and help.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. This was just a pleasure. So great.
You are a hero and an inspiration, Stephen. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. We're
Thank
going to
you
be
so
back,
much.
guys, right after these messages.
I told you I was not to be tested. I'm next. I've been in the gym every day and I bench. Way too much weight to be getting offended. A whole lot of rage in the way that I step. I've been at war with the monsters inside of my head, and I keep coming out with the win. They gon' get me back on the field again.